Yo, how's your butts, guys? Today we're going to be talking about day one raids and Warmind cells and what you should be looking to wear and looking to use and getting used to before you get into the day one raid stuff. So if it's your first time here, please like and subscribe. But we're going to get into it. This is cut live from a VOD. You can also check me out at Peter Pumpkins on Twitch. First off, the one you're all going to want to use is Global Reach. This is going to be a must-have. The Warmind cells you create affect damage targets at a greater distance, so this is a bigger radius that they affect. So every single effect that you put on a Warmind cell mod, this actually increases the radius of them, so this is a must. And also, if you just have this one on and you have a 7 Seraph weapon on, you will have the ability to create Warmind cells. So next one, which is going to be kind of a variable, I'll come back to that one. This one's going to be a variable too. But the two that I'm going to say are must-haves for the day one raid, which are Warmind Cell and then also a Charged with Light build. And if you guys, I do have a video about Light from Darkness, about how it kind of bridges the gap between Warmind Cells and Charged with Light, so you can use both of them at the same time. Really synergistic. Dope word, by the way. So this, become Charged with Light by rapidly defeating multiple enemies near a Warmind Cell using weapons or abilities. So this is going to be the thing. With this and what I'm proposing for the raids, that's going to be important for a day one raid. Since we're going to be under level, you're going to want to use the buffs that Warmind cells give you. So you're going to have your Warmind cell sitting on the ground around enemies and you. You're going to have global reach, so it affects a larger area, not the small area that it just does without global reach. But you're also going to be getting Charged with Light from Darkness. So you're going to leave the cell there. You're not going to want to blow it up. You're not going to want to shoot it. You're going to leave it there to gain those buffs. And also Light from Darkness, killing the enemies within the radius of the Warmind cell also gets you Charged with Light. So that's really synergistic. If you have multiple people with Warmind cells, even if they create them, this still affects you as long as you're killing the enemies. If you're not killing the enemies, you won't get Charged with Light. If you're getting assists on them, you won't get it. You have to get the final blow on the enemy to actually get Charged with Light. Next one is not that, but it's going to be Protective Light. Now this is going to be kind of a semi-variable for me, so I'm going to have a couple that I'm going to say are variables where you're going to change situationally depending on what's in the raid, how your fire team's acting, and what's going on with everything else. Protective Light is going to be one that I'm going to recommend because it's going to be passive. You don't have to do anything once you're Charged with Light. It just goes into effect like a Taken Barrier, a Hive Barrier, or a Fallen Barrier. Once your shields are broken, this actually, you take significant damage less. Your damage goes down. You don't take as much damage. It's that simple. Damage resistance goes up. It's crazy. You don't have to do anything. It only costs 2 energy, so it's good. A couple of variables that we have on here mainly are going to be high energy fire. Now this is if you're getting around a lot of ads. Say if you have a lot of orange bars, we are going to be under light, so they're going to be harder to kill. If you're having trouble killing lots of enemies, I would say this could be good switching to this, possibly in the earlier encounters, maybe not in the later encounters, because you're going to want Protective Light in the later encounters when you know you're going to be the most under light whenever the light level is the highest. So those are going to be the two that I would recommend. If you have anything else with Charged with Light that you really like using, a lot of these, as far as gaining and getting Charged with Light, just really aren't that useful because it requires you to kill lots of enemies quickly with a specific weapon type. So that's why we're going to use Light from Darkness. It doesn't matter what weapons you're killing them with. As long as you're killing them within the radius of the Warmind cell, you're going to get Charged with Light. That's why I like that. So the other two variables that I'm going to propose, but first, Warmind's Protection. That's the one I'm going to highly recommend everybody put on. If you just you create the Warmind cell, you leave it there, you take reduced damage from enemies that are near Warmind cells. So any of the enemies that are affected by those Warmind cells, you're going to take reduced damage from those. If you're having an easy time staying alive but you're having trouble killing things, then you would switch to Power of Rasputin, which is slightly more energy. It costs 4, not 2, but you're going to do a 10% damage boost with Power of Rasputin, and this does stack with this does stack with Bubble. High energy fire, by the way, the one I talked about earlier, does not stack with those, but Power of Rasputin does, so this can be really good. This is what I would suggest if you're having trouble killing enemies. If you have really aggressive enemies, which we could have, the one that I'm going to recommend is going to be cellular suppression. So that's going to be the other variable for this. So one of those three, either protection, power of Rasputin, or cellular suppression. The last one, which I'm going to call a variable on, but I'm going to be using because I'm going to be using a solar subclass. Also, I'm probably going to be using Xenophage at least early in the raid. It's good DPS and it's also very good ad clear. It's going to depend on ammo economy and things like that. RIP armaments. So this is what I'm going to use. So solar splash damage, final blows have a chance to create Warmind cells. This is really good. This is easy to kill stuff, especially with Xenophage. You're killing stuff with solar splash damage. Xenophage is just solar splash damage incarnate. The other things that I would recommend would be Rage of the Warmind, but these are going to be only if you're blowing up cells. So the rest of the build, these really aren't going to work that well. These are just going to be kind of variables if you want to change them out with the solar mods. The other ones that I may recommend for at least void mods would be Warmind's longevity. If you're creating a ton of cells and you have all of your fire team have buffs and they're carrying the mods on them as well, if you have Warmind's longevity, that actually increases the duration of a Warmind cell to 30 seconds. So it's there for a really long time. So if you're creating lots of Warmind cells for your teammates, then you may want to have longevity on, because you creating the cell is how long the cell's gonna last. It doesn't matter what other people have on. If you create the cell, the cell's gonna last longer. And also with all of these mods, so mainly the Warmind cell mods that you have on, what you have on is how the Warmind cell reacts to you and to you around it. Say if I have Warmind's protection on and my buddy doesn't, he does not get the benefit of Warmind's protection, only if you have this mod on. Same with power of Rasputin. It's the same exact thing. If there's a cell sitting on the ground and you didn't create it, but you have power of Rasputin on, you get the buff. If you created it and you don't have it on, you don't get the buff. You only get the buffs, generally speaking, you only get the buffs for the Warmind cells for the mods that you have on. The other kind of ones that don't go for that are longevity, because it's just whoever created it. That's how long the cell is going to last. And also suppression, because you actually have to shoot the Warmind cell. It's going to suppress the enemies around it, and obviously other people are going to be affected by that. But those are my recommended go-tos for a day one raid. This is going to be paramount for a day one raid. I think whoever gets worlds first, and the majority of people that are going to complete a day one, if we have a ton of people complete it, we don't know what the raid is. It could be 1 or 2 groups, it could be 500. We're not really sure. But on to weapons and subclasses. Now a lot of this is going to determine if you're using Wrath of Rasputin or not. If you're using Wrath of Rasputin, you're going to want to use a solar subclass. So I can imagine most warlocks are probably going to be running well, maybe top tree Dawn in the beginning of the raid, but either way, your solar splash damage from this has the chance to create a Warmind cell. Now it's the exact same amount of enemies you have to kill as if you were just shooting a weapon at it. And just a refresher for that, it's 7 red bars with the weapon, 4 orange bars, or 1 yellow bar. There's also some kind of weird math with if you mix orange bars and red bars, and it's kind of funky. I do have a video based on that, and it tells you, it goes more in depth. So weapon choice, what are we going to choose? What do we want to use to actually create Warmind cells? Well, so the biggest ones you're going to use are going to be in your special slot, because primaries, there's really not very many good primaries. You can create Warmind cells with a solar subclass if you have chromatic fire on, but most people probably aren't going to be using chromatic fire just to create Warmind cells. So we don't really have that many good choices. We have 2 choices as far as 7 Seraphs go. We have the 7 Seraph Officer Revolver, which came out unworthy. It's not attainable right now, but it's just not a very good gun. It's a 180. It doesn't do a ton of damage. It's not a very good 180. I don't like it at all, but I have it in case, and just for a 180, it's not going to do a ton of damage to enemies that are over leveled for you. So mainly you're going to be using whatever in your special slot, and your heavy slot are where you're going to be getting the most of your Warmind cells from. So I recommend an Ikelos sniper rifle, which I absolutely love. If you want to get high impact reserves and 4 times the charm, or must-haves, I currently don't have one that actually has extended mag or appended mag, but those are what you want. You can fire off like 14 successive precision shots in a row, something ridiculous with this. So this is actually really good for DPS, and it can also be good for like orange bars and everything that's slightly higher in difficulty to kill. There's also the 7 Seraph and the Ikelos shotguns. Now, I'm probably not going to recommend either of these for day 1 raid because you're going to be underleveled and you're probably not going to want to be that close to that many enemies, but this is also an option that you can use. For heavy, none other than Xenophage is going to be, I think, paramount in this raid. It's amazing for ad clear. It does really good DPS, especially on Titans and Hunters with the reloads a lot easier. Maybe not so much for Warlocks, but since this just does shoot solar explosions, every 4 enemies you kill, every relation to Warmind Cells. Any other solar thing that can create splash damage, if you maybe need higher DPS or something like a grenade launcher, this can create Warmind Cells as well, as long as you have Wrath of Rasputin on. But that is the majority of what I have for you guys today as far as day 1 raid goes. I hope you guys prep is going good. It's October, so celebrate. Buy some pumpkins, get some jack-o'-lanterns, do it. I love you. Hit like and subscribe for more daily Destiny 2 videos. I'll check you guys next time, and keep your butts safe.
I may have misjudged Eris.
Oh, fuck off.